Vikings used a magical crystal to conquer the sea, and now that crystal is in our hands.
The Viking Sunstone represents a mixture of myth and reality, proving how great the Vikings were with navigation. It's believed the Vikings used the crystal to find their way across the dangerous North Atlantic Ocean, and it's intrigued historians, archaeologists, and scientists. In learning more about the Sunstone, we know more about the history of events, research, and theories, unmasking the challenges of using this ancient tool. The Vikings were accomplished sailors, possibly the best of early medieval times, hailing from Scandinavia. From the 8th through to the 11th century, they sailed far beyond their countries, establishing trade routes and colonies. They even explored North America, nearly 500 years before Columbus's arrival there. Their fast and agile longships were relevant to their raid successes, but no less than their sailing skills across the unpredictable waters of the North Atlantic. The North Atlantic was hard to navigate, with frequent storms, fog, and no landmarks to help sailors on their long journeys find their way. More traditional methods for finding directions by the stars or the sun sometimes worked better in these conditions. This is where the Sunstone, mentioned in Norse stories like the saga of King Olaf, might have come in handy. The Sunstone is thought to be a form of crystal, probably Iceland spar, also known as colorless calcite, cordiorite, or tourmaline. These crystals have a reasonably unusual property called birefringence. They refract light in two directions. As the light passes through the crystal, it polarizes. Its light waves line up in one plane. Mariners could estimate its direction using the light patterns in the crystal when it was turned, even when the sun was obscured by clouds or below the horizon. In 1967, Danish archaeologist Thorgild Ramskjol suggested that such crystals might have been used for navigation by Vikings. He made this suggestion because sunstone was mentioned in Norse stories, and because of properties already known for these minerals. Experimental work carried out since then supports this suggestion very well. Iceland's spar could be used to accurately determine the sun's position. Indeed, over the past few decades, researchers have subjected the sunstone theory to simulation and experiment. A team from Eötvös University in Hungary conducted one of these studies. A detailed simulation of Vikings' trips between Norway and Greenland was run for various crystal types, such as calcite, cordiorite, and tourmaline, under different weather conditions. The results were impressive. Simulated voyages were successful 92 to 100% of the time, with the sunstone used every 1 to 3 hours. Success rates were still reasonably high when used less often, ranging from 32% to 59%. The results indicate that sunstone would have formed an effective tool for navigation, especially in the cloudy and foggy weather conditions of the North Atlantic. Cordiorite was found to be the most exact crystal, although calcite fared quite decently, but a bit less effectively. These results strongly support the hypothesis that Vikings might have used sunstones to help them with navigation. Although recent studies have yielded promising results, no direct archaeological evidence exists that Vikings used sunstones. The closest finding was a piece of Iceland's spar in the hull of a 16th century English shipwreck near Alderney. This find suggests that European sailors might have known about and used these crystals, but didn't directly relate them to the Vikings. The lack of concrete evidence has meant that historians and archaeologists continue to argue the subject. Some argue that the absence of any sunstones in Viking burial sites or shipwrecks suggests they may not have been used much or at all. Others postulate that because crystals are fragile and much time has passed, they may have yet to be found. While ancient Norse sagas mentioned sunstones, modern research supports such a theory. If Vikings did use sunstones, these crystals would have been very helpful on any long trip over open water. Since it's better at determining the sun's position, they could maintain their directions correctly, and hence have a lesser chance of disorientation concerning the direction of their travel. This would have been important in voyages to places such as Greenland, Iceland, and Vinland, probably present-day Newfoundland. With very few landmarks, even small errors could be dangerous. The theory of the Sunstone also illustrates the degree of understanding and connection with the natural environment that the Vikings had. The efficiency in using elements of nature for ordinary applications testifies to their ingenuity and enterprise. This, in conjunction with other navigation methods like bird migration outlines or the pattern in ocean currents, would have rendered them even more magnificent at their navigation on the seas. The story of the Viking Sunstone is still, to some extent, uncertain. Although modern research strongly supports its use, the absence of direct archaeological evidence ensures that some people remain skeptical. Future discoveries, such as that of Viking shipwrecks or new historical documents, may shed more light on this intriguing piece of Viking navigation. The Sunstone story also illustrates how hard it can be to fathom ancient technologies. Very few remains are often left from tools and techniques from the past, and these remain difficult to interpret. Thus, the truth or legend of the Sunstone makes us reflect upon the ingenuity of the Vikings and how they might have coped with the adversities of their environment. The Viking Sunstone lies at the crossroads of history, science, and legend. Yet, even if we cannot know precisely how it was used, all evidence seems to indicate that this would have been of inestimable value to any Viking sailor. As we continue piecing together secrets about this mysterious period, the Viking Age, the Sunstone shows us the curiosity and ingenuity of humans. The hard challenges to overcome show that the drive to discover and understand will lead to amazing achievements. Whether a practical or legendary tool, the Sunstone remains a living part of Viking heritage.